Hello everybody and welcome back for another amazing video. What we have guys for today is how to play Far Cry games in the right order. A pretty popular game that most of us heard about it. Even if you didn't have the chance to play it, I'm gonna be having a look to which order we must follow. So without any further ado, let's get started guys. The Far Cry series ranks among the top games of its kind. It's an anthology franchise of first-person shooter games, all of which have been published by Ubisoft. So if you are willing to play every single game without avoiding anything, and as your first time experience, just follow the release date of each game. But before jumping to that, I will show you how to follow the chronological order, which basically the timeline. Make sure to watch the whole video and don't miss any part. But one moment, do you want to be a part of the Superfans team? Leave an animated comment to support the channel. Anyway, let's jump first to the chronological order, where Far Cry PRIMAL, set in 10,000 BC, the first game chronologically in the series, redefined the franchise by immersing players in a prehistoric world where guns were replaced by bows and arrows and goons by saber-toothed tigers. The game's standout feature was the ability to tame animals, fulfilling players' dreams of riding wolves and bears. Ubisoft succeeded in delivering an exciting adventure despite removing guns from the gameplay. Next one, Hours of Darkness, which set between 1960s and 1970s. It's a Far Cry 5 standalone DLC that transports player back to the Vietnam War era to aid American troops as a gun for hire. Although the game features new weapons, its emphasis is on stealth gameplay. While smaller than the main game, the DLC offers an immersive experience of the war in its under 2-hour campaign. And by the way, the initial Far Cry 5 DLC, Hours of Darkness, is one of the 3 major DLCs planned, which requiring Far Cry 5 to play. Next one, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which set in 2007, is a standalone DLC set in a distorted version of 2007, unlike the year we know. Instead, it's an interpretation of 2007 by 1980s action movie directors, taken to a world crafted by the minds behind Terminator, Predator, Rambo, and Robocop. Among others, Blood Dragon's universe is a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland brought on by the US and Russia crossing the line. As the cybernetic super soldier ranks, players must navigate the world and carry out tasks befitting their status. I wanna mention that Blood Dragon can be played without owning a copy of Far Cry 3. And don't worry, we're gonna include it later in this order. Jumping to Far Cry 2, which set in 2008. Interestingly, despite being the second game released, Far Cry 2 is the first in chronological order for the main Far Cry series. Launched in 2008, the game is set in the jungles and savannas of Central Africa, marks a significant departure from the original game in terms of gameplay, characters, and settings. Despite being marketed as a direct sequel to the original Far Cry, the risk paid off, paving the way for all future Far Cry games to be standalone titles. It's time for Far Cry 3, which set in 2012, Ubisoft's third main entry in the Far Cry series, taking place on the fictional Rook Island, an exotic tropical paradise that players are free to explore. The game follows protagonist Jason Brody, who while on vacation is forced to rescue his friends from pirates and fight his way off the island, combining combat and exploration. Players can choose from a variety of weapons to fend off both wildlife and human enemies, and the game received critical acclaim that its world design, gameplay, and progression, earning several award nominations, including Game of the Year. Let's jump to Far Cry 4, that's set in 2014. Take a virtual trip to the war-torn world of Kyrat in Far Cry 4 and experience the Himalayas like never before. Initially planned as a direct sequel to Far Cry Cry 3 with the same characters. The game evolved into a brand new adventure while keeping the core elements that made its predecessor a hit, while a more exotic location, a tyrannical yet memorable villain, and more hostile wildlife. Far Cry 4 also introduced improved weapons and marked the series' first foray into a multiplayer and RPG elements, while 2 expansions, Escape from Durgish Prison and Valley of Yetis, were released. They were not standalone, as still featured AJ Gully as the main character in a similar timeline to Far Cry 4. Going now to Far Cry 5, that's set in 2018. In keeping with the Far Cry franchise established gameplay style, fighting and exploration takes center stage once again in this latest installment. Player will need to fend off both hostile soldiers and untamed wildlife using a variety of unique weapons. Additionally, Far Cry 5 introduces several new features, including a map editor, a competitive multiplayer mode, and a cooperative multiplayer mode. Upon its initial release, Far Cry 5 received largely positive reviews from critics and proved to be a financial hit in its first week of sales, setting a new record as the fastest-selling game in the franchise history. We have now Far Cry 6 of 2021. Take place in the fictional tropical island of Yara. You play as Danny Rogers, a member of the local guerrillas fighting against the oppressive regime of the country's dictator, Anton Costello, who is grooming his son to take over. To help you in your fight, you can count on your allies, the Amigos, and craft your own weapons and vehicles. Going back way to Far Cry 1, that's set in 2025, so the first Far Cry game actually took place in the year of 2025, following a global nuclear disaster known as the Collapse in the Far Cry universe, which occurred in September 2018, despite being less well known than its successor, which is Crysis. Far Cry was a highly regarded game upon its release in 2004, which offers players a range of weapons and tools to assist in their missions, with open maps that allow multiple approaches to each objective. Finally, Far Cry New Dawn is a self-contained expansion and mini-sequel to Far Cry 5, taking place in the year of 2035. The game is similar to Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon in that it features a post-apocalyptic setting with a distinct purple aesthetic and introduces a new storyline and protagonist. Now guys, let's jump to the release date order, and I'm gonna make it easy for you. All you need is to stop the video and take notes. It's recommended for anyone who wants to start everything and doesn't have any idea about Far Cry games. So after all, you have the choice to choose one of the 2 ways to play Far Cry, but also you can forget about the order thing and select the environment that suits you and start playing. If you are drawn to the Himalayas, take on the role of a Jaigal, but if you prefer a more western backdrop, then the rural American setting for Far Cry 5 is just right. And for those who are interested in history and anthropology, Far Cry PRIMAL offers an exciting experience. Overall, Far Cry is still one of the best games among other popular ones. And here we are reaching the end of this video, so don't hesitate to support the channel and follow me for amazing content. If you have any questions, go ahead. Leave a like as well, that would be appreciated. And have a wonderful day guys.